Oh, it's like 60 minutes.
Yeah.
Can you turn on a like very loud ticking clock in the background? I'm available for hire. You know what I like? Here's the thing. I should probably turn my phone off, eh? I'm Meg Roberts, and this is the Franchise Masters. I grew up in a big Irish Catholic family where you have to fight for your seat at the table, you have to fight for your voice, you have to fight for the Pop-Tarts, you know, that whole thing. I have 2 brothers and a sister, all of whom are very successful people. My parents were both in the military. My dad and mom both were in the Navy. And I think they raised us pretty conservatively in a way that, you know, it was really about work ethic and decency and kindness to others. And, you know, we were competitive kids and ambitious and lots of rules in our house. You know, make your bed a very precise way. It was called the Navy E, and it hung over our door. If you were the one whose room was neat as a pin, that was all good. But really, I was raised in a household of parents who really, really cared about the unity of our family and togetherness and supporting one another. And we certainly were mean as hell to each other growing up and all that kind of fun stuff that happens, but really looked out for one another. I very much look up to both of my parents. That's what life was like in my household as a kid. We all went to University of Michigan, so we're uber big time Wolverine fans, and that's fun. So we got 2 doctors and we've got 2 people in franchising. So my younger sister, Nora McGillicuddy, is the VP of marketing at another brand called Health Source in this industry. So girls went that way, boys went into medicine, which is kind of fun. My history or my trajectory in school was very different than my brothers and other people in my family who were studying biology and medicine and that kind of thing. I always knew I wanted to be in marketing and advertising and really followed that path pretty strictly through graduate school. Worked in the big agency world in Chicago for many years, and I honestly thought I was sort of semi-retiring. Moved back to Ann Arbor, had 2 children, didn't think I wanted to work those crazy hours and travel that much, so, you know, franchising obviously doesn't require any of that. But I knew some local people who owned this brand called Molly Maid, which happened to be headquartered in Ann Arbor, and I didn't know anything about franchising. I didn't know it was a franchise. I just knew the owners of the company, and I knew their web page circa 2007 needed some help, and I offered to help them, and it really just kind of happened that way. I came into what was really largely a family owned and run business, a lot of really great talent there, but they had never had an outside marketer or someone who'd been trained in that discipline before, so it was a lot of fun to bring an old, dusty brand, pun intended, to a new level. And I spent almost 12 years there, I guess. So starting as their director of marketing, maybe. I can't remember exactly what the title was. And I was just lucky enough to be brought up by and taught the industry by a lot of really good people. The founder, David McKinnon, the president before me, Christy Mayu, just some really great people who kind of guided me. And timing and talent, you know, when they come together. I was promoted into the job of president and kind of looking over my shoulder going, they can't possibly be talking to me. And I honestly learned so much in those 8 years in that role that it made it easy to make a transition into leading what I would consider a startup brand at the Lash Lounge. If I look at my career, which is really 2 major brands, one that was very established and one that wasn't established at all, I feel like I've had the best of both worlds now in this industry, both in terms of brand building and team building, but really in the most important part of franchising, which is experiencing and respecting and delivering the promise to the franchisees, whether they've been with you for 30 years or they've been with you for 3 months. That's a skill and a privilege that comes with a lot of time and understanding, and I'm really proud of that part of my career, and I hope that's what I stand for most, which is the relationships with my team and my franchisees. You know, the way that I was raised and what's important in my family and what I, you know, really preach to my sons is others come before you. That's just the way it is. My dad always said, officers eat last. I love giving to other people and helping other people. The most satisfying thing is seeing people that I've started my career with and watch them grow. And if I can create paths for people to be successful and make sacrifices to make that happen, I will do that every time the opportunity presents itself. And I feel the same way about franchisees. I will literally do just about anything I can do within my power to do the right thing and to help people become successful, to help them believe that they're respected and make that be the truth. That's about the biggest compliment I could receive, that people enjoy working with me. Everything about franchising is collaboration. Absolutely everything about it. And I don't think that individuals really succeed in franchising as much as teams do. Hiring's a little scary for me because I don't hire that often. And the reason I don't hire that often is I've got teams and people that we've been working together almost 20 years, 15 years, 16 years, 10 years. I hope that I'm working with the people I'm working with today for another 10 years. And you can do that if you create the space and the opportunity. And if you get out of the way, sometimes you just got to get out of the way. I love all things politics. I love all things Washington. And I really hate that some of the policies in our government right now are making it more difficult for us to do what's right when you're trying to build a company. And when you're trying to build a company, you have to look at the person who shows up at 7 a.m. and unlocks the doors to that warehouse, or who is plowing the snow in the driveway to make sure all the trucks and vans are ready to get out on the road, who is, bringing the food into the cooler. It's that group of critical employees, people who are, seeking to support their families, that make this country run fundamentally. And whether that's happening in a franchise or in a family-owned business, we should all be thinking about how do we inspire, care for, protect, raise up the employees who are working on behalf of America. So in the roles that I've had, there's a common theme between the Molly Maid employee, our home service professionals, that we really like to respect the women who work for the brand, as well as then lash artists in the Lash Lounge. And these are largely young women, 20s, 30s, 40s, maybe haven't had the opportunities that a lot of us really take for granted. And recognizing that in this industry, we can create safe places for people to work. We can create great, better than minimum wage jobs across the franchising industry. Across the franchising industry, we can create careers. We have lash artists who work for us who make 6 figures. Women in their 20s who don't have 3 college degrees and are able to buy a home and support their family. That inspires me. And if that doesn't inspire my employees and my franchisees, then those people aren't for me. Because at the end of the day, we are successful if we create success for the person who's passionate about working for us. If you don't care about your employees, they are not going to care about your customers, and your customers aren't going to come back. So I like to believe that we should all care about people, because that's my altruistic belief and how it should be. But if you're only motivated by your business success, you got to know people have to care. So it's at the root of who I am that, I would fold towels in the back of every Molly Maid that I went to visit for hours, and I couldn't communicate with most of our employees because there was a language barrier, but I wanted to be there. I wanted to know what that day was like. You go out and clean homes for one day, and I couldn't walk the next day. I was so tired. Imagine doing that for 20 years. It's a career, it's a job that deserves respect, period, full stop. The balance between supporting franchisees and growing your franchise organization is something that you have to keep in careful balance, because bringing more franchisees into the system theoretically is what's going to help grow that brand. Now, I emphasize theoretically because I think the industry can be irresponsible in overselling areas and overzealously awarding franchises. I've been in a business where it was largely sold out, and so all of our emphasis was on supporting the franchisees, and that's a challenge after 30 some years to keep a brand fresh and keep people inspired. So there's a certain segment of executives and processes and things that you would put in place for a brand that is pretty solid, and it's going to stay there. I would say for a brand like the one that I'm leading today, the Lash Lounge, it's very solidly focused on the franchisees right now, and I'd like to be able to add more emphasis to growing the business. And truth be told, this brand is like many brands in its first 4 or 5 years. You sell a lot of brands award a lot of licenses very quickly, and they stay in that lane of continuing to develop, and they don't shift gears enough to build and focus and deliver the promise to those 1, 2, or 300 franchisees who may have signed up for their brand, I believe that we shouldn't be selling something if it can't be successful. So lots of brands that sell fast, ours included, we had to very quickly pivot and shift and deliver the goods. And that took our emphasis away from franchise development, appropriately so, I think, for a handful of years. And we are absolutely in the place where we can do both very well now. But it takes time. It's hard to do both at once until you really get your sea legs settled. And I would just recommend that brands deliver the goods to the people they made promises to before they make too many more promises. Yeah, when you buy everyone on your staff a weighted blanket for Christmas because everyone is having a bit of a nervous breakdown, it's probably a sign that you need to hire more people. This business is a fast-paced business, and it gets faster. It doesn't get slower. The better you are, the faster it gets, which is a little bit ironic because people will say, well, when we get past this, when we get past that. And I've been in this long enough to know that you don't want to get past everything. You want it to always be fast because that means you're growing, and not everybody is cut out for that. I thrive on it, and most of the people on my team do. It doesn't mean they don't get exhausted and burnt out and you just want to bury your head for a couple of days. But then you want the adrenaline that comes with that too. You know, I always say, it's something I think I've learned from my dad maybe, if you don't like blood on your shoes, don't be in the operating room, be a dermatologist. So if you want to be in franchising, you better expect that. It is crazy. That's what I love about it. It's always something is happening. So you got to look out for your team. You've got to build your team, but I don't ever want to have too many people. For me, the best memories are the memories with the franchisees, the franchisee who calls you up and says, hey, you took a chance on me a few years ago and I didn't have citizenship, and I know that was hard for you to do, but I just became an American citizen and I just got to my car and you're the first person I want to call. That sticks with you for a really long time. I'm not proud of me. I'm proud of him that he got to accomplish that goal, and I'm super honored that he called to share it with me.